After a tumultuous couple of years, 2022 generally felt like a return to normalcy in many respects, or at least as close to normalcy as we might expect to get, and I think that is certainly true of the year's cinematic offerings. The usual variety of film fare was here in droves, and although I didn't get to see everything I wanted to due to commitments both at work and in my personal life, I found this year to be particularly strong. Narrowing down my favourites has been particularly difficult this year, despite having seen fewer films than I normally would. As usual, my list is not ranked and is instead just a discussion of those favourites in no particular order. Please note that I'm going off UK release dates, so there are some films in this list which other reviewers may have included in their 2021 lists, just because these films didn't get released until 2022 in the UK. Without any further ado, let's begin. A film which has already graced numerous commentators' end-of-year lists for 2022 is Top Gun Maverick, and with good reason. In terms of pure cinematic spectacle, very few films have come close to matching Top Gun's flair for exhilarating, immersive action. The use of fixed cameras to reel jets with snappy, smart editing, coupled with Tom Cruise's old Hollywood-esque charisma, made this a real treat to watch on a big screen. The action sequences were so well put together, some of the best in the 21st century so far in my opinion. Truly, this was a film specifically designed to be seen on the big screen, and it certainly delivered. I can't recommend this enough, although I suspect most of you have probably already seen it. Perhaps a more under-the-radar choice is the British independent film Brian and Charles. This film was very whimsical, sweet and heartwarming. Very light and low stakes, but sometimes a gentle yet uplifting journey, like the one Brian goes on in this film, is all the escapism one needs from a movie. David Earl's subdued performance as Brian was a particular standout, and I loved watching him grow and develop with Charles over the course of its runtime. The ending was a real fist-punching moment for me, and I left the cinema beaming. For me personally, this was also the funniest film of the year I saw. It is very witty in places, and the filmmakers used the absurd premise to its fullest extent. Everything Everywhere All at Once has dominated discourse surrounding 2022 in film. There is little to say about this movie that hasn't already been said. It has a little bit of everything. Fantastic action sequences, perfect comedic timing, and nuanced, interesting characters that we go on this fantastical journey with. There is so much going on, and indeed so much to enjoy, although I will say that as a result, I found the ending to be a touch unfocused, and although Evelyn's relationship with her daughter is the main through line that glues together the events of the film, I think the film focused on her relationship with her husband and her father a bit too much. To me, that meant that all three relationships were explored, but none as in-depth as they possibly could have been given the runtime, and that meant that I found the resolutions to each one a little bit underwhelming. That being said, it's still an amazing piece of work, and I'll definitely look to watch it again soon. Each year when I compile this list, there is usually one film I include for reasons I can't fully articulate, and this year that film is The Worst Person in the World. There is something mesmerising about watching Julie's life unfold. The struggles she faces both in her work life and her romantic life are universal and to an extent relatable. As a drama, it's excellently conceived and put together. As I say though, there's just something about it which I can't quite put my finger on that made it incredibly resonant. Before I move on to my favourite, I just want to briefly mention Rian Johnson's Glass Onion, Jordan Peele's Nope, and Matt Reeves' The Batman. All three were excellent and among my favourites as well, but the others discussed just about beat them out. Now, in terms of picking out a favourite film of the year, I cannot decide between two excellent films, so exceptionally, I will say that both The Outfit and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris are my favourites. The Outfit was a very clever film which plays out almost like a stage play, only in one location, over one night. Mark Rylance plays a cutter from London who has a tailor's shop in Chicago in the 1950s. His shop gets used as a front for the mafia, and one night one of his patrons stumbles in having been shot. I will say nothing more of the premise because the way the night unfolds is masterfully written. The twists and turns are unexpected and well executed. Rylance is brilliant as ever, his performance is exceptional. It's a shame that this film flew under the radar for so many, so if you haven't watched it, I would strongly recommend it. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is a very different type of film. It's incredibly sweet and uplifting. The characters are endearing, and you warm to each of them very quickly. I love the setting, and it was brought to life with a cosy energy. The film is a very mellow and comfortable watch, and is a perfect pick-me-up. I have nothing bad to say about it. Any shortcomings there may be in the craft are drowned out by the snug innocence of its story, and that isn't to say the craft is poor by any means. There are some techniques used, particularly in the sequences that show off the various dresses, that work splendidly, and the soundtrack choices are strong throughout. And that concludes my list for 2022. As always, here is the list of every film I saw this year, so, as usual, there are some missing which I'd like to get around to soon. What are some of your favourite films of 2022? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any recommendations. On another note regarding the state of the channel, obviously 2022 was a fairly quiet year. I had hoped to produce more videos, but unfortunately my work and other personal elements got in the way of that. I won't make any promises to make more videos this year, as that never seems to go well, but I'll say that I have several half-finished scripts in the works from last year, which I'd love to be able to put out in the near future. So please do consider subscribing if you haven't already, and hopefully there will be more to come soon. Until then, thanks.